Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a watch that was launched in 2020, part of a relatively scarce and limited run capsule collection. This is the Breitling Superocean Heritage 57, and while not explicitly a limited edition, its production run and existence in the catalog will be relatively short. 42 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel, the watch is 10.2 millimeters thick. From lug to lug, 46 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. This watch is designed to recall the original 1957 Breitling Superocean Reference 1004, which was Breitling's first diving watch. And while it is larger on my wrist and better made, it does cut an impressive stance, looking very much like the historical prototype. Taking a look, you can see it's super thin for a diving watch, only 10.2 millimeters. Now, it does have a little bit of a cantilevered bezel, but even then it's going to fit underneath a tight cuff. Across the wrist, you can see that the bracelet does add a little bit of virtual diameter and flare, and I'll show you what I mean. You see how it doesn't pull straight down out of the lugs? This would be straight down. This would be straight down. This is a little bit of virtual span. So I'm going to recommend this watch on the bracelet for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, but I think you could wear it on a 13 to 13.5 centimeters circumference wrist if you were to put it on a more flexible strap. Taking one last look over the top, you can see how those lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist. This bracelet is a wonderful piece of silky chainmail, and you can see it does conform to the case. Vintage watches more often than not would have used straight bars, but in this case, it's a very handsome and modern take on a vintage watch. It's not, strictly speaking, a line-for-line historical reedition. It's a modern interpretation of the original 1004. You can see that there is a wonderful, close-coupled sort of chainmail quality. It feels like fabric, but it's made of metal. These are created in large sheets of chainmail that are then cut to size, and milling is used on the edge to remove any of the burrs or any of the spurs that might otherwise create discomfort against the skin, and you can see they even polish it to a mirrored shine. We have removable links. Actually, we have removable links on both sides of the clasp. They use pins and sleeves, so you'll need a block and a punch to size, but you will be happy to know that this bracelet can be sized conventionally by removing links. It's a double fold. You can see it's a non-sequential close. Either side can close first. Breitling B with a Breitling logo. Twin trigger release, internally polished and satinated for a nice subtle contrast. Rolling around the case, it's all of high polish like the bracelet itself. We have a media blasted and polished crown. This being a vintage inspired watch, there are no crown guards. Also being a vintage inspired watch, it has two features that were prominent on the original. This dramatic outcropping of the bezel and a super slim mid case. This slim mid case is something you'll find on a lot of vintage reeditions, as well as watches that haven't changed a lot through the years. Think Speedmaster Professional Moon Watch, and you see exactly where I'm going with this. The watch does feature a bidirectional gliding bezel, so it feels like it's on Teflon or a Norglide bearing or something of that description. Now, it is historically true, as the original would have been without numeric calibrations and bidirectional, though by the modern standards, with the ISO 6425 being quite literally the standard, this is not, strictly speaking, a diver because the bezel can move in either direction. But it is silky smooth and gratifying to operate. It's a pleasure. It's also dramatically dished, and we have this dramatically domed sapphire to look like a vintage plexiglass. We have a ceramic insert to protect the bezel against scratching. We'll do a quick Lume Shot. And you can see that the watch has a distinctive vintage-inspired lume aspect, including a lovely chevron broad arrow hour hand. You can easily line up that bezel pearl with the minute hand and time the passage of time in rough terms during your dive. Of course, not being calibrated, you can have to guesstimate, but that's always been the case with dive watches. Higher grade than the original, this features all applique indices, including a set of idiosyncratic vintage forms at the quarters, but it's a great looking dial, matte black base to resist glare, and of course large, dramatically elongated and exaggerated minute hashes. On the reverse, they remind you that this is the Superocean Heritage 57. And underneath, we have a chronometer certified Sellita SW300. It's Sellita's version of the classic ETA 2892A2 bidirectional winding 42-hour power reserve, 8 beats per second. It has a stop second or hacking function. Pivots on 25 joules. It's adjusted in a chronometer standard 5 positions. The better to earn a chronometer certification, which it has, having been tested for roughly 2 weeks in multiple positions and at multiple temperatures, and never deviating per 24 hours more than -4 + 6 seconds per day. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.